Right now, your body isn't spending its energy supply to pull your bones together. It's using every bit of fuel it has just to pry your muscles apart. Look at a corpse locked in rigor mortis. That stiffened body hasn't received some violent new signal to flex. It's simply run out of the cellular currency needed to unlock its own fibers. When a sprinter collapses on the track mid-stride, grabbing an agonizingly cramped calf, their nervous system didn't misfire an instruction to contract. The tissue just suffered a localized blackout, leaving microscopic proteins trapped in a physical squeeze. Inside every muscle cell, millions of tiny hooks snap shut automatically, like spring-loaded traps. It costs your body zero energy to let those molecular traps slam shut. But forcing them back open requires a relentless, non-stop flood of metabolic fuel. To understand why your body is stuck fighting this constant internal stiffness, we have to look deep inside human tissue. Skeletal muscle comes down to two primary microscopic actors, thick filaments called myosin, and thin strands called actin. Picture myosin as a dense row of molecular ratchet arms, coiled with tension, eager to grab onto the nearby actin rope. When your brain fires an electrical impulse to move, calcium ions rush into the cell. That calcium acts like a key turning a lock, exposing binding sites along the actin strand. Instantly, without consuming a single unit of cellular fuel, the myosin heads latch on and pull. This force, the power stroke, is just a physical release of stored strain, like a mousetrap snapping shut the moment the tripwire is bumped. The muscle contracts automatically. It's effortless, passive, and immediate. Here lies the strange paradox of human biology. Once that myosin head snaps forward and pulls the muscle tight, it stays fused to the actin. They form a rigid, locked crossbridge that cannot release by itself. To break that bond and let the muscle fiber lengthen again, a fresh molecule of adenosine triphosphate ATP must arrive and physically force the myosin head to let go. If these hidden mechanics of human biology fascinate you, hit the subscribe button and join us at the Minecraft, because we are only just beginning to peel back the strange realities governing your mind and body. Without ATP acting as a microscopic crowbar, that molecular knot stays tied forever. Energy in the human body isn't the fuel that pulls the trigger to contract. It's the expensive, continuous effort required to reset the hammer for the next strike. Take the simple act of taking a deep breath. As your diaphragm lowers, millions of myosin heads latch onto actin, pulling your chest cavity downward. But to exhale and let your chest settle back into place, your mitochondria have to work furiously, churning out billions of ATP molecules every second. That chemical fuel rushes into the cell, binding to myosin heads to pry them off the track, while specialized pumps work against massive concentration gradients to vacuum the calcium back into storage. Every second you exist in a soft, relaxed state, your body is executing an active, high-energy rescue operation. Relaxation isn't the absence of work. It's the single highest metabolic expense your flesh incurs. This rule applies to every muscular action in the body, but nowhere are the stakes higher than inside the human heart. The myocardium beats over 100,000 times every single day, pumping thousands of gallons of blood through a vast network of vessels. When the heart contracts during systole, it's just releasing built-up biochemical strain. But during diastole, that crucial resting window where the chambers expand to refill with blood, the heart consumes the vast majority of its oxygen and fuel. If a coronary artery gets blocked and deprives the heart muscle of oxygen, the tissue doesn't go limp. Instead, as ATP levels vanish, the heart wall freezes into a rigid, rock-hard state of ischemic contracture. The heart fails not because it can't squeeze, but because it can no longer afford the energy to open its doors. Every second you sit quietly, your body is engaged in a massive expenditure of power just to maintain flexibility. So what happens when the tiny power plants in your microscopic engine room start to flicker, and the fuel line drops to zero while you are still wide awake? The answer lies in the terrifying reality of extreme cellular starvation, where a living mind becomes trapped inside a body turning to marble. In rare medical emergencies, like severe heatstroke or cyanide poisoning, the body's ability to produce ATP shuts down while the brain remains fully conscious. Cyanide, for instance, paralyzes the transport chain inside your mitochondria, instantly cutting off the power grid. As ATP levels plummet across the nervous and muscular systems, the effect is immediate. You don't collapse into a loose, lifeless pile on the floor. Instead, as calcium stays trapped inside the muscle cells and ATP reserves dry up, every skeletal muscle in the body begins to lock in place at the same time. The patient experiences widespread, uncontrollable stiffness, a living, awake state of rigor. The mind keeps sending signals commanding the limbs to release, but the microscopic mechanics at the cellular level are locked shut, waiting for a fuel currency that no longer exists. This dark biological reality explains the predictable timeline of human mortality. When cardiac arrest occurs and breathing stops, blood ceases to deliver oxygen to the tissues. For a short time, residual stores of creatine phosphate and glycogen allow cells to generate tiny trace amounts of ATP, keeping the corpse soft and pliable. However, within 2 to 4 hours, those final energy reserves are completely depleted. Without energy to run the calcium pumps, calcium leaks uncontrollably out into the muscle fluid. Binding sites on the actin strands are left exposed. Millions of myosin heads snap closed across the entire body, latching onto actin in a final, universal grip. Because no new ATP can ever be produced by a dead cell, those crossbridges are locked forever. This is rigor mortis. The human corpse does not stiffen because death introduces a hardening agent into the blood. It stiffens because life was the only thing actively keeping the flesh soft. Rigor mortis only ends after several days, when enzymes begin to physically rot and digest the microscopic protein filaments themselves. The body can only relax after death by destroying the very machinery of muscle tissue. When you lift weights until your arms fail, you're experiencing a brief shadow of this exact mechanism. That burning sensation in your biceps isn't the muscle burning fuel to make one last rep possible. It's the accumulation of metabolic waste and a sudden drop in local ATP availability. The muscle stiffens and quivers because the crossbridges can't detach quickly enough to maintain fluid motion. You don't run out of strength to pull. You run out of power to let go. We spend our lives believing that movement is an action and rest is a pause. We assume that strength is measured by how hard we can pull, press, and grip the world around us. But down in the microscopic dark of your own flesh, nature operates on a far stranger principle. Your default physical state isn't fluid, soft, or gentle. Your baseline biological reality is a frozen, impenetrable lockup, a state of stone waiting just beneath the surface of your skin. Every second you spend moving freely, smiling, or lying quietly in bed is an active, brilliant defiance of that default. You are not a machine that uses fuel to turn on. You are a biological spring held open by a continuous, burning flame, and every relaxed breath you take is proof that the fire is still burning.